Now, the United Nations has just commented on the Israeli operation in the occupied West Bank. Gabriel Elizondo is at UN headquarters in New York for us. So, Gabriel, how are these Israeli raids resonating there in the halls of power in the UN?
Well, the spokesperson for the Secretary General issued a statement on camera about this. The UN is watching the events in the occupied West Bank very closely. The Secretary General is traveling right now, but he's been briefed on the situation. And the UN, the big picture is the UN has counted since October 7th, 630 Palestinians who have been killed in the occupied West Bank since October 7th. But the UN is particularly concerned about Israel's latest escalation in the last 24 hours, saying they're gravely concerned. They said that the UN has said they've seen reports of Palestinians killed by airstrikes and sniper fire as well in the last 24 hours. Let's listen to a little bit more of what the UN spokesperson had to say.
We've been following the developments since this morning with grave concern and are very worried about what we're seeing. Our humanitarian colleagues at OCHA are warning that people there are increasingly exposed to deadly warfare tactics that seem to exceed international standards for law enforcement. Our human rights colleagues remind us that in the West Bank, Israeli forces must adhere to international policing standards where lethal force and firearms are the last resort and can only be used against imminent threat of death or serious injury.
The UN also announcing something else very troubling that transpired in Gaza on Tuesday as well. The UN saying that one of their clearly marked UN humanitarian convoys was hit 10 times by Israeli military gunfire on Tuesday. The UN saying that their convoy was clearly marked with UN insignia, and also that the UN had coordinated the movements of this convoy with the Israeli military. So the two UN officials who were in the vehicle luckily were not injured. However, the UN is calling for an investigation into this incident because clearly something went terribly wrong. So the UN, this took place, I should say, around the area of Wadi Gaza at some point on Tuesday. I should point out that over 200 UN staff members, mostly from the UNRWA, the UN Relief and Works Agencies for Palestinian Refugees, have been killed in Gaza since October 7th due to Israeli bombardment, and at least one international staff member as well.
All right, thanks so much, Gabriel Elizondo there at the UN headquarters.
Make sure to subscribe to our channel to get the latest news from Al Jazeera.